Our guest today is Ted Libbey, the author of the NPR Listener's Encyclopedia of Classical Music. Ted, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm very happy to be here.
Who is the main audience for this book?
Well, the book's title is the NPR Listener's Encyclopedia of Classical Music. And for me, that's the main audience, the listener. It is a book written for people who want to engage with classical music, not in some academic way, but really just because they love it. They maybe want to read something more about a piece that they know or that they just heard on the radio, or maybe they want to make some new discoveries, and so they just sort of let the book drop open wherever it will and see something interesting in it. That's who it's written for.
Does the book cover a certain time period?
It covers the whole history of what we call classical music, which begins probably with the invention of written notation around 800 or 900 AD, right up to the present day.
How does the book tie into the reader's listening experience?
Well, it does that in a lot of ways, actually. First of all, because there are entries on actual pieces of music, listeners who may have just heard something on the radio while they're driving their car, and they don't hear anything about it except the title, and they're interested, they may want to find out more, they could find that in this book. It also ties into the listener's experience in that it provides more information about the creators of the repertory that people may run into if they're listening on the radio, or if they go to a record store. They may see something, they may not be sure entirely what it is. They can find out something about that composer or that work in this book. And finally, it has a website that actually allows people to go online and listen to music that they read about in the book. And there's a lot on that website. There are 520-some links, and these are links to entire pieces in some cases, or at least whole movements. So it's about 70 to 100 hours of music that people can access if they have this book.
The encyclopedia includes recommended recordings. How do they supplement the listings?
Throughout the book, there are these little sidebars that suggest recordings that people can look for if they're interested in listening to the music. And these are very selective. I tried to pick the best recordings that I could. So for the entries on works, named pieces, there are always going to be recommended recordings. Also for the entries on composers, I will try to recommend recordings of their most important works. And finally, for the entries on performers, I will try to recommend recordings that give a good sense for what that performer could achieve, their strongest repertory.
Ted, thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure.
My pleasure.